One order, no retreat. An entire army surrounded, frozen, and erased. In the heart of Stalingrad, during the most brutal phase of the Battle of Stalingrad, one decision sealed the fate of more than 250,000 men. This wasn't just another episode of World War II. This was the moment when Nazi Germany crossed a line it could never return from. In late 1942, the German Sixth Army stood deep inside the ruins of Stalingrad, convinced it was close to victory. Street by street, factory by factory. The city was burning, and the Wehrmacht believed the Red Army was nearly broken. But while German soldiers fought and bled in the rubble, something far more dangerous was unfolding beyond the city. This is the story of the order issued by Adolf Hitler, the No Retreat Order, and why it decided the Battle of Stalingrad long before the final surrender. This is not just a WWII documentary. This is military history at its most unforgiving. The Sixth Army was one of the most powerful formations on the Eastern Front, battle-hardened, confident, led by General Friedrich Paulus. As part of Germany's 1942 summer offensive, it pushed hundreds of kilometers into the Soviet Union. The goal was clear: secure the Volga, cripple Soviet logistics, and capture the city that bore Stalin's name. Stalingrad was not just strategic, it was symbolic. But as the army advanced, supply lines stretched thinner, fuel ran low, ammunition became scarce. Winter clothing was almost non-existent. Still, the orders from Berlin never changed. Advance, hold, never retreat. Stalingrad was not conquered. It devoured armies. The fighting was unlike anything seen before. Urban warfare at point-blank range. Basements, stairwells, factories. Every ruin became a killing zone. The Red Army refused to yield. They clung to narrow strips of land along the Volga, reinforcing at night, counterattacking at dawn. German soldiers called it Rattenkrieg, Rat War. And while the Sixth Army bled inside the city, its flanks were guarded by weaker Axis allies, Romanian, Italian, and Hungarian units with poor anti-tank defenses. The Germans were winning the battle in Stalingrad, but they were losing the war around it. On November 19, 1942, the Soviets struck back. Operation Uranus did not target the city itself. It smashed into the weak Axis flanks north and south of Stalingrad. Soviet tanks broke through within hours. Entire defensive lines collapsed. The pincers closed fast. Within days, the encirclement of the Sixth Army was complete. Over 250,000 German and Axis soldiers were trapped, and at that moment, escape was still possible. German generals on the ground begged for permission to break out. They knew the risks. They knew the window was closing. But in Berlin, Adolf Hitler refused. The order was absolute: hold Stalingrad. No retreat. This was not a military decision. It was political. Retreat meant admitting failure. Hitler believed the Sixth Army could be supplied by air until relief arrived. The Luftwaffe promised the impossible. Reality didn't care. The airlift failed almost immediately. Weather grounded planes. Soviet fighters shot them down. Supplies fell into enemy hands. What reached the city was never enough. Food was rationed to starvation levels. Horses were slaughtered. Wounded men froze where they lay. Temperatures plunged below -30 degrees Celsius. The Sixth Army was no longer fighting the Red Army. It was fighting hunger, cold, and time was winning. By January 1943, the situation was hopeless. The Soviets split the pocket into smaller sections. Airfields were lost. Resistance collapsed. In a final act of symbolism, Hitler promoted Friedrich Paulus to field marshal. The message was clear. No German field marshal had ever surrendered. But Paulus chose life. On February 2, 1943, The Paulus surrender at Stalingrad became reality. Around 90,000 men laid down their weapons. Fewer than 6,000 would ever return home. So why did Germany lose Stalingrad? Not because of cowardice, not because of lack of skill, not even because of winter alone, but because retreat was forbidden. The Hitler no-retreat order transformed a difficult situation into total annihilation. Stalingrad shattered the myth of German invincibility and shifted the balance on the Eastern Front forever. Stalingrad was not lost in the streets. It was lost far away, in a room by a man who refused to accept reality. One order, no retreat, an army erased from history. This was not just a battle. It was a warning. Subscribe to history. Subscribe for more stories about the moments that changed history forever.